Hello everybody, my name is Kyle, welcome back to another video. Today in this one I want to make a short little video covering the current format, or if you're watching this in the future, post Age of Overlord format. So why do I want to talk to you about this format? Well, last week Pack made a tweet basically saying this was one of the worst formats of all time, and made a video later on kind of explaining his points on why he thinks that, right? And he got a lot of flack for it. A lot of people disagreed with this take. So in this video, I kind of want to discuss, is this format good or is it actually as bad as Pack is saying it is? So yeah, let's get into the discussion, shall we? So Pack's main argument basically is this format is super hard to prepare for. So he was preparing for YCS Indianapolis and kind of made a meta call that Rescue was going to pretty much be the best deck going into that YCS. So he kind of made a meta call making it to Purely, basically saying Purely has a good Rescue matchup, so he's going to play Purely for that reason. But in the YCS, he didn't really verse Rescue. He kind of versed all these other decks in that, and that he kind of got sacked. Round 6, he versed Dragon Link. He set up on a Noir, kind of had a shit ton of interruptions in his hand with hand traps and stuff as well. But his opponent went Herald the Abyss, get rid of the Noir, and played through all of his interruptions and basically killed him, leaving Pack there just sitting there just like, what just happened, right? Like, that's just kind of what happened. And his main argument is the fact that this format is super hard to prepare for is what makes it bad, and also makes like an argument like Infernoble Knights and Manadium. Basically, if they go full combo, is pretty much like FTKing you and stuff like that. So that's kind of his main argument, is that this format is super hard to prepare for. But I will give him credit on that. I will give him credit that this format is super hard to prepare for. I have been preparing for 2 regionals, one that just happened this past weekend and one that's upcoming in the future, and I will tell you, it is super hard to prepare for. You just don't know exactly what you're going to be versing. Sure, you can probably expect to verse like a Rescue in there, maybe like a Purely in there as well, but you don't know exactly what you're trying to prepare for, just because you don't know exactly what is people are going to be playing for that specific event. So I will give him credit on that. That is super hard to prepare for. And if you're like Pack and trying to win a YCS, right? Yeah, it can be super hard to prepare for, because there, again, you have to go through so many fucking games to try to win a YCS. If you're not versing the same deck over and over again, like in past formats, then it can be super hard to prepare for that as well. So I can kind of understand his argument on it's hard to prepare for, but him saying this is kind of the worst format of all time, completely disagree. I think this is actually one of the better formats we've actually had in a while. The fact that there's so many diverse, or so many decks in this format, I think is what makes it great, right? So sure, yes, it's super hard to prepare for because there is so many decks in the format, but going to like an event and just versing different decks every single time, to me, that is super fun, right? Not just versing the same deck over and over again. That can get boring after a while. Look at Tier Limit Tier 0. Sure, the Tier 0 matchup, the Tier Limit matchup is super fun to play, but if you're versing that like over and over again, it gets boring after a while. Same thing like Cash, right? If you're versing Cash over and over again, it does not make that fun, right? But in this format, the fact that there is so many decks and you're just playing different decks every time, like when I went to the regional last weekend, every matchup I had was a different matchup. Like I versed 2 Brandons, but they were on different versions. One was Pure Branded and one was the Chimera Branded. So, and the fact that the one deck has 2 different versions as well is what makes it fun as well for that. So that what makes it fun. Even though I didn't do that great at the regional, the fact that I versed different decks every time was what makes it super fun. And I didn't really get sacked either. I was playing like Tier Limit and stuff like that. So I pretty much, all the losses I had was either me just like, okay, I just kind of misplayed and stuff like that, and or he just, you know, he was just the better player and nothing I can do about it. I didn't really, like, usually I'm pissed if I like lose a lot like I did at the last regional, but the last regional I went to, I wasn't really that pissed. Probably because my boy got top 4. Let's go, Jeff. But The fact that I wasn't really that pissed that I kind of scrubbed out is what made it fun, just because I had fun in those matchups, right? So I think this format is really, really good just because of the fact of how many decks are in this format. And another thing is that you can pretty much win with any of these decks, right? So like any deck, if you put the heart and mind to a deck, you can win with that deck in this format. Look at YCS Bolivia that just happened this past weekend. Fucking Makonko just won that YCS. A deck that I put in garbage in my tier list that I made last week just won the fucking YCS, which is fucking insane, right? That's so insanely good to see that you can pretty much win with any deck you want to play with. That's very good to see. Sure, you're still, Rescue probably has more of a chance to win compared to other decks, but that's really good to see that you can pretty much win with any deck in the format. Another thing I want to talk about is every deck pretty much has a weakness in this format as well. It's not like there's one clear deck where it's just like, man, that deck is just kind of overpowered, right? Because if there was a deck like that, that would be like the best deck in the room. There really isn't a deck in this format that has that quality, right? I think every deck has a weakness to an extent, right? Like Rescue clearly is probably the best deck this format, but even then, that has a really rough matchup against something like the Phantasme. If they drop a Phantasme on you, that's all of a sudden turning off your spell traps, and maybe depending on what you want to go into the extra deck, right? So Phantasme is a good kind of side deck card against fucking Rescue. Same thing with Unchained. Phantasme is really good against the Unchained matchup. Purely, which is what Pack has played. There's so many outs to Purely is kind of the problem. I think Pack made the switch to Purely because Purely might have a good matchup against Rescue, but then, he does have to remember that there's so many outs to Purely, right? Like a Kaiju outs the Purely Noir, XYZ Encore outs the Noir, Kurikara outs the Noir, Herald of the Abyss outs the Noir, which, is searchable through like Thrust and stuff like that. Even like a Book of Eclipse if they have to make Noir through the trap, a Book of Eclipse pretty much wins the game as well. Any book card will win that game. So, that's kind of a problem with Purely, is that the fact that there's so many outs to it, right? And other decks like Infernoble and Manadium, which he kind of says are kind of FTKs if you let it go full combo. The problem with those decks is they pretty much die to Droll and Lockbird. So if you draw the Droll, you pretty much win that game, right? Same thing with like Nibiru as well. If they don't make a negate before 5 summons, Nibiru can pretty much handle that matchup pretty well as well. Tier Limit has the weakness of something like the Bestials and stuff like that being able to be side deck. Shifter is also in the format. That goes for any Dragon League deck as well as Bestials and Shifter exist and stuff like that. Any back row deck, Feather Duster, Lightning Storm is in the format. That's also searchable off something like Triple Tactic Thrust. So like there is so many weaknesses to decks, and that's why I think it makes it fun, right? Because it's like, cool, like sure I have to prepare for a shit ton of decks, but there are weaknesses to every single deck that I play against, so you kind of just have to go for broader strokes, right? You, in your side deck, have to play cards that hit multiple matchups, like the Phantasme will hit multiple matchups. Same thing with the Bestials, they'll hit multiple matchups. The Feather Duster and Lightning Storm will hit multiple matchups. Same thing with like something like Evenly Matched as well. So I think that's a really good point to bring up as well, is that every deck has a weakness. So that's what makes it good, because now that puts you in a game where if they go full combo, you pretty much lose. At least there's weaknesses to the deck that you can put cards against to kind of help you in that matchup as well. I also feel like this format is kind of grindy as well. I don't feel like there's that many decks that are trying to OTK. It probably helps with something like SP, Little Knight, and Typhoon being in the format as well, which it helps you break going first boards and help you go second and stuff like that. Those cards are insane for going second, which are very, very good to see. So this feels like a format that is super good because it's super diverse and there's a shit ton of weaknesses to decks as well. But 2 is a super grindy format as well. You're not just instantly dying turn 1, because going second, there's so many cards that help you go second, and especially with SP and Typhoon in the format, it feels just like a grind match more than it is kind of just OTKing or something like that, or just winning on turn 1, right? So yeah, those are kind of my thoughts. I kind of went on a little bit of a tangent. So yeah, those are kind of my opinions. It wasn't like something like giving you informative facts. It was just kind of my opinion. I do think the format is super good. I do disagree with Pack. I can kind of understand where Pack is coming from. If you're trying to win a YCS, it is super hard to prepare for. but the fact that the format is super diverse right now is what I think makes it super, super good. So yeah, I went on a little bit of a tangent. Again, this is more of an opinion piece than it is of like informative or something like that. So yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe for more content on the channel. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.